This season of The Digital Fix is sponsored in part by Uconnect, providing true transparency for brands and agencies in the biddable media space. Visit them today at uconnect.com.
You're listening to The Digital Fix. Digital done right. This season is presented by Mio Marketplace. Mio, the marketer's matchmaker. If you're a brand marketer or an agency, media, or platform that works with them, Mio is a marketplace built just for you. Visit them at miomarketplace.com. And now, here's your hosts for The Digital Fix, Sean Halter and Stephen Moy.
You are listening to The Digital Fix, the podcast for all things digital marketing, presented by Mio Marketplace, Mio, the marketer's matchmaker, and Fuel Finance. As a reminder, The Digital Fix is hosted by myself and Stephen Moy, both of us with Moy and Halter, a consultancy looking to help bridge the AI gap between media and creative. Our guests today are the digital prophet, David Shing, also known as Shingy, taking a nice quick drink of water as we prepare, and Alyona Mysko, founder over at Fuel Finance. First things first, guys, CES kind of here and underway. It seems like, not surprisingly, everything is all wrapped around AI and what's happening in the agentic space. We can't run a podcast now at this point without at least kind of covering off on it. But I've seen some interesting things already from there. Some of the robotic things that are from there, some of the news coming out of there. Shingy, let's start with you first. Where do you feel like CES fits into the marketer's landscape heading into 2026?
Well, I just landed this morning from doing tours there, mate. So 26 CES, there are two things that's never going to change about that place. And it's simply this. It's either going to be available at Best Buy in the next 6 months or never. Somewhere between that is CES. And what's really interesting for me, I spend all my time at Eureka Park because what's stimulating there are things that are really in alpha. And it's really taking some of those ideas and trying to find out whether they have gravitas. I think all of the big brands, LG, Sony, Samsung, etc., God bless them, I can only look at a 100-inch screen for so many seconds before my mind starts to go wander, because I don't give a stuff about content, to be honest. And what's really amazing, though, is that TVs are TVs are TVs. It's all those little micro moments, particularly in the wellness space and health space, that everybody tries to think about it. The challenge is this. There are hundreds of wearables at this point in time. People have their habits, and to adopt a new habit, you typically have to break one. And so this technology is great. All of this hardware technology is great, but what habit are you going to break to adopt a new one? So all these robotics, they're great. Who cares? I'd rather play ping pong with a human. I'd rather box with a human. I'd rather see the happenstance with humans as opposed to something that doesn't give me haptic feedback.
As opposed to, say, grocery shop or shop talk, I tend to find, although I love electronics, I tend to find it almost overwhelming. Hard to know exactly kind of where to go and where to start and how to best use my time. Stephen and I are always kicking around. What do we want to do? Where do we want to go? Where do we want to spend our time? Stephen, we skipped CES this year. Do you have any FOMO at all from us not attending?
A little bit this year. Last year I wasn't that FOMO, but this year I've been watching a lot of keynote on YouTube or whatever platform, and I would categorize very interesting. Right? Last year was more focusing on software innovation, but this year a lot of more hardware. I would say equal part hardware innovation and then software. As you know, right, our stack is right when you have infrastructure, you have a better computing power. Like you talk about, a lot of them talk about like better hardware require less electricity power consumption, less cooling, and then they can compute more. Right, all of a sudden, and also they created a supercomputing capability that can link a lot of different capabilities together, and then they can power all the language model, the LLM, right? Those are and then on top of that you have different software and application. Now this year I see a lot of emphasis on the new, I would call the physical AI innovation. You see more and more of that, and also I appreciate, at least for me, Shinny may I agree. Finally, I see a little bit more focus. Maybe we call narrow AI innovation, right? Okay, let me solve the autonomous car. Let me solve, a logistic management robot. Let me do this. Because the last few years all about too generic, almost a topic, right? You can save the world and then evil empire come in, Terminator will come and kill you, that kind of thing. This is a little bit more purposeful. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think second half of the year, you will see more and more application. I'll talk about software application of AI to the marketing ecosystem.
It is interesting what you said, Shingy and Alyona. I'm going to come to you next here, but you said something kind of interesting, which is they're all going to be there now, and 6 months from now, we'll know whether the money was well spent or not. Sitting in the space that you're in, Alyona, I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about what you guys do at Fuel Finance in just a moment, but talk about that part right there. You work with a lot of agencies, and you're working with agencies that also have to figure out how to spend budgets and how to best represent those brands out there. And so how do you provide them some guidance potentially on whether money's being well spent or not, especially on a big event like CES, where unless you're Sony, you're going to be a minnow in a sea of sharks?
Oh yeah, that's a good point. Actually, interesting conversation about AI. I think that like from the perspective like of finance side and like proving on what exactly you need to spend money. So nothing like, to be honest, like has changed. So you still like should understand what will be the output of all the things that you do, and you still prioritize what is important, on what things you need to be focused. So the same, I think, happening with events and all like marketing budgets. So I think like marketing budgets, they're like the most like volatile all the time. And no one actually truly understands how to actually track efficiency of the spending. So they're usually like the most, I don't know, expensive, the highest lines, to be honest, like in P&L. But overall, I think that events also like very, very expensive all the time. So we have some customers who actually visit CES. So every year they prioritize that. But overall, so when we ask them, how do you track efficiency? So the timeline of tracking efficiency of such events is so long. Sometimes you can see like the value in 12 months or 9 months. So it's still like not clear like how to understand if it's relevant or not relevant from that perspective. But also from another side, I think it always like important. So what you can get like from this event. So like, to be honest, you asked Steven about like FOMO of visiting events. I think that I also like had in some period, I had like some FOMO because everyone like posting, oh my gosh, we see that, and that speaker. But overall, after everything, so you need to understand what is the reason to visit that. So what is your output? What is your value that you want to get? Like revenue, customers, I don't know, like what will be return on investment from this spending of the time, because time is actually the most important resource that we all have. So that's another point.
It's an interesting point, and we're going to dive into that just a little bit, which is as you're looking at P&Ls as agencies or as marketers, travel can be one of those, especially now, certainly post-COVID, it can be one of those big lines, and it's expensive. And if you're going to showcase something there, it's even more expensive. It's funny to kick off this new season of the Digital Fix, almost an international flavor here as well. Look at the four of us. I'm the only old white guy on this podcast right now. We've got David Shing, which if you've never seen him before, you'll need to watch this on YouTube, because as soon as you see him, you'll never forget him, with this incredible Australian accent. Stephen Moy, and then Alyona, you're from Ukraine as well, which is, where you and I actually first met was at an event at Miran last year, which will be coming around the corner here before we know it. So let's talk about you. Let's stay with you for just a moment. Talk a little bit about the company Fuel Finance that you've started, and talk a little about what you guys are doing in this marketing, advertising, and agency space.
Yeah, so we work with many agencies, so we help them to be more profitable. So actually, like with Fuel Finance, we build a platform that helps to track efficiency of all different types of expenses, understand what types of customers, projects, revenue streams are the most profitable for agencies, understand utilization rate, forecasting, like plan actual analysis, cash flow budgeting. Cash flow is always like about anxiety, as I see in many companies. So when you especially need like forecast what will be with your cash flow in the next certain weeks. So we help with all of that. We work with agencies, as you mentioned. So I still believe that agencies is a very like complicated business model. You need to manage people, revenue, projects, customers, like all of that. You always have these challenges between demand and supply, how to cover one and another. So we help with all of that. So all our customers actually become more profitable when they start to use Fuel. So that's the key metric that actually the most important for us to just understand that it's not only the system or data-driven decisions, but it also drives profitability of our customers.
The money's always part of it. Shingy, I know for you, this consulting piece that you do is the part I always find most fascinating when you catch up with us and you're talking to Steven and I about maybe what you're up to. But talk to us about 2026 for you. What are the things that you're kind of leaning into perhaps even just outside of AI, since that's such a wrap on what everybody's doing. What's going to be important to you this year? What are some of the brands that you feel like you want to either have a chance to have some conversations with, or how do you look back at the end of this year and think, yeah, this was a slam dunk?
Yeah, great questions. Why don't we start with the easy ones, for God's sake? I mean,
Sure.
Here's the reality of it. This is a unique time because everything that we think is changing in every vertical. But there are some things that stay the same, which is people currently still buy from people. If we're thinking about enterprise level type transactions, and people still want to be around people when we talk about events. So when you talk about efficiencies and I talk about it as efficiencies, you'll talk about it as profitability, which let's call it the same thing. So some that could be about reduction, some could be about growth. Where do you get the ROI in it? Some could be long, some could be short, depending on where your focus is. So for CES, it might be press quotes, God bless. For some others, it might be literally lead generation because they've got a concept to see whether they can take their widget and put it inside a widget. There are many, many different value chains in a space that has 5 football fields of technology rolling around over 3 days. And it's only, you get FOMO, Stephen, if we talk about people in the US, because the largest tech show is not CES. It's actually happens in Dubai. It's not this. So what's amazing, and it's 5 times bigger. And what's really interesting about it, just take all of that away. What stays consistent is that people want to connect with other people. So whether they're through a digital screen or in a physical experience, wherever that is, and if they can occupy more mind share, that equals market share. So the thing that I'm focused on is less about efficiencies, and it's less about understanding where to put the spots and dots. It's about being an advocate to make sure that creativity is no longer part. It used to be the non-working part of the media dollars. It should absolutely be front and center as the activity of it, because without that creativity, giving somebody the ability to have a tilt head moment or I should think about this when I'm not online. That's very, very, very different than understanding where it should go, because where it should go is wherever an audience is. So you get the best. You deserve the dollars if you deserve the audience. And part of that, I think, is too much focus. We focus too much on splintering the audiences all the way down to how we can make it super efficient, then A/B test them with 20 different variables and find out whether we should put a frequency cap on that thing anyway. And by the time they're done, it's like, I bought the product 10 days ago and why are you still showing me sneakers? Or in your case, the ultimate sneaker book, which, by the way, your book collection looks amazing. I want to know about the Gustav Klimt book, and obviously you have a Virgil one over your shoulder as well. So whatever you're doing is working. I love the fact that it's really the intersection of culture and creativity that I care about, because we've lost that. I love the AI efficiencies. I grew up in the world of traditional graphic design. I knew what happened when desktop publishing came in, killed the industry. But if I look behind all of you, one thing is constant, is that you've all got print in the background. You've all got physical things. We actually love to live in a world of analog. So what does a digital experience transact into an analog experience? That's the thing we still need to think about, not CES efficiencies.
Stephen?
Totally. I mean, while I have you, exactly, I always talk to a lot of my clients, or when I go back to teach MBA school and things like that. Shingy, you hit something very hard. It's like with technology advancing, right, that they create more efficiency for functional needs, right? When you're building a brand, okay, your product got to be superior, meaning if you're building a car, you got to be able to safely get me from point A to point B. But how you differentiate your brand completely back to what you just talked about, the creativity side, right? What kind of emotional value or exchange you want to build? Well, what would you advise, right? You advise a lot of your clients. Right, everybody, oh my God, running around. I have a quarterly P&L. I need to report to the street, assuming, whoever boss it, they will report or to the shareholder. At the same time, they don't want to leave behind with all the advancement. What would you advise them? Like short term, what should they do? Well, without losing craziness, all the noise out there.
Alyona, you want to answer that first, and then you, Shingy?
I definitely agree with you about how to differentiate. And to be honest, sometimes, so I can say even from our perspective. So we have marketing budgets that we spend 80% we spend on some things that we know that we work, but 20% we spend on some absolutely crazy things. And it's mostly about building the brand, design, whatever. So something that will be memorable, because now I think this is so high. I don't know, all this informational flow that we have. So from all social media, that actually I think that marketing and design part and branding, so you should do it in so different way So to make people remember you, because this is the only point when they will be back, they will remember about you, and they will sometimes think, oh, I remember this guy, so I will check their website. So maybe they do like what I need, so whatever. But I think from that perspective, it's never, so we didn't find the way like how to track, to be honest, like efficiency of this part, but we see from ourselves that it's still important. So have this creativity in marketing and still this approach of experimenting new things is still important. If you do like 100% only on the things that like, okay, they are work, but you're not trying to experiment, try new things, it will be hard. So I think especially nowadays, like what is happening, what we just like say sometimes. So yes, you can track data, you can see like different efficiencies of different approaches, but overall, so if you started the project, at least try to understand what do you expect from this project? If it's like the crazy project, so what do you expect from it? I don't know, like people will remember it. Even like when we do like merch, for example, we try to ask ourselves what type of merch we want to make. So we give it to people, we want them to check our website, or is it like some valuable information, some benchmarks, etc., or maybe just something to be memorable. So there is like no specific, like, I don't know, goal of that. Or sometimes it can be, okay, let's do something so it will be easier to start talk like during events. So some t-shirts, I don't know, caps like Sean, like you have. So something like that. So that's definitely like, I think that it's not about like how to make it data driven. And in many cases, that's also the key point of like conflicts between finance teams and marketing teams, because I think that it's not obvious. Like in some things you just like can't track, but you still need to be like aggressive and hungry about that.
Shingy as kind of an extension of that so that you can kind of give your spin. It feels to me sometimes like agencies are the worst at marketing themselves. I mean, there are not many agencies that I know that have really good merch where you're like, oh man, I really wish I had that no fixed address t-shirt or whatever. So why is that? Why in this world of what we do and how we do, is it this painter philosophy that you go to a guy's house if he's a painter and he's got the worst painted house on the block because he's so busy working? What is it?
I don't think that's the case. I mean, there's a bit of the bit of the painter or the cobbler shoes, whatever analogy you want to test. But what I think is amazing, instead of people saying you've got to get it all out there, like merch is a great example. You don't have to get it out there, actually. You have to get it in here. So if you've just got merch that stands out, I'll give you an example. My business card, I was looking for it, but I don't have one here. And I still have a physical business card. It is black on black on black. It's 4 layers deep. It is embossed. It is, all it has is my logo on it and my phone number. And it's very simple, which is people are like, why do you have this massive, gorgeous card? I'm like, it's because you will not throw that thing away, one. And two, you still have it in your hand talking to me. And you're going to remember that thing when you roll back to the bar and you've had 20 cards tossed at you or whatever. You're still going to hold on to that thing. And what's nuts about it is all of it's really, really simple. It doesn't matter whether it's an agency, it doesn't matter whether it's a brand. You have to stand for something, you have to have a point of view. And if you don't have a point of view, you're going to become very platonic. It's going to be very the same. And if I look at somebody like I'm going to pick on your background again. If you think about what Gustav does as a painter, I mean, he was completely cast of the misfit toys, but then so was Agile. So if you look at what's going on here, you've got these incredible people who could go out and buy Champion t-shirts for $16, put an opinion on it, a big X, for example, and suddenly he's going to tell you it's worth $65. Why? Because he has an opinion about it, even though it has Champion on it. You know the quality of Champion, and it's very pedestrian, but the quality of my time I put on it, that's a different message. And that's the thing about it, is because you can get everything out there, the problem is more is not more. Less is more. And that's the beauty about what's happening. And if we reflected back this week about CES, there's a lot of noise, but there's only 5 things you might walk away from that saying, yeah, that was pretty cool. But there are 5 football fields of technology you're trying to buy for people's attention. It's not about attention, it's about intention. What do I do after I get that? So to stand out as an agency, you have to have a point of view. And that point of view should either make somebody happy, make them sad, make them tilt their head, make them mad, whatever. But it should have a bloody well point of view. If it sits in the middle, if you're going to be nice, then you're not going to have an opinion and no one's going to remember you.
It's a bit of an episode about money, obviously, again, with Alyona on here and Fuel Finance. But we've talked about these different size events a little bit. And I guess, again, that's where I'm racked my brain a little bit. You talked about you're going to walk away from CES, 5 football fields with 5 things. Now, obviously, that's not going to be the same 5 for all people, but man, that feels like so much waste. It feels like there's so much money that's spent. We had clients in CES, and for what they spent, I don't know that they got
No,
that.
hang on. It depends on why they're actually spending
Great.
or why they're actually going there. And some
Make
of
that
it might
point.
literally be, I want to qualify this in a category. And all I want to do is meet with GM because I think this widget would be great in their dashboard.
Yeah.
Awesome. If that's all they need to do, then they know they're going there with a to-do list. If you ask somebody like Lego, have you, that's one of the 5 things people are going to walk away with is a smart brick. And you think, really? I don't get that smart brick personally, but hey, it's getting all the sound bites. God bless. It's Lego. So they can hold the attention of somebody with their investment. Their investment, by the way, is very low. They have a meeting room, I think. Yeah, they're not like doing a keynote stage that they paid for with LG, looking at 120-inch TVs stacked and racked.
Yeah.
It's a very, very different philosophy. But events are the real reason. I'd love your opinion on it, guys. Events are one of those abilities for people to actually be at the coalface of what an opinion is straight away without having to worry about the digiverse.
Stephen, talk about just that. We talk always about what events you and I are going to attend, why we're going to attend them.
Too many.
One of the good points that Shingy made with us late last year, early this year, was how do you kind of take over that space? Whether you're, to your point, Lego just took over space, basically spent very little and yet sucked some of the air out of the room.
I spent 5 years working with electronic company, right, including Samsung. This is their Super Bowl, almost
Yeah.
I think we'll go back to what the ROI, what the purpose, right? It's a necessary evil for a lot of the manufacturer or consumer electronic product companies, including Samsung. And they have to do that. Like from a marketing perspective, like we talk about it with Shinny, right? If you are like agency or you're targeting brand, it may or may not be the right setup for you, right? Just say right this weekend or somehow next week will be NRF, right? That's another different setup. Always crazy too in New York City. Talk about retail innovation, omni-channel, e-commerce, things like that. I really, as anybody else, right? If you only have limited budget, right, where you want to send your people in either for a business objective, meaning driving more business value, or in the past when I was in leading digital agency, we look at South by Southwest more like community building and also recruiting. Right? It's not a lot of talk about award or whatsoever. Award, you will spend all your money at Cannes Lions for the creativity award and the different purposes. Well, it depends. If you have limited budget, I really want to know the opinion from the 2 guests here. Like there's too many, almost my humble opinion, too many events, right? If you have to advise our viewer listener, where should they focus? Like it's too many, like possible coming up, South by Southwest, you got New York bunch of events and Dubai globally, like Web Summit, the whole 9 yards.
Alyona, speak to that. How do you help them to know what to pick?
We actually teach our customers like how to do retrospective analysis, like to be honest, because before you plan something, you need to understand what you've already done and was it efficient or not. I think that like many people, they miss this part. So there's like good phrase about that. You can do like 2 step forward, but you should do 1 step back all the time. So that's the key point, that if you already done some events, so you definitely have the data. So yes, you need to collect this data, analyze this data. So what you got, maybe leads, maybe revenue. So, but that's exactly like what you need to understand, how much money was spent, how much revenue, leads, I don't know, customers we got from that. And usually like you can compare that to any other channels that you have or any other events. So that's something that we do like from our perspective in our business. We also recommend it and we implement in our system. So the same things like to analyze all the time. So it also helps like to stay very focused. So not spend time and resources on things that don't work and to be focused on exactly things that work. So from ourselves, I can say that we did the same. So during the first several years of Fuel, so we visited like so many events, but to be honest, like we learned also that like, okay, 70% of this event, they don't work for us. So there is like no reason to visit them. Even like we feel like some FOMO because everyone is there, but we didn't get results. So we stopped doing that. But instead we found like other events that actually brought the value. Customers, revenue, partners, and we clearly understand. So we have this analysis and we provide this analysis for customers. So here's how much money you spent, what results you got, how you can measure these results. So before planning anything, do one step back and analyze what you already done if it worked.
Shingy, I don't know if it's a takeoff of that. You have this uniqueness, at least from my perspective. I don't know if it's the glasses, if it's there, what it is, but I can go and say something to you with an opinion, and you'll completely change my opinion in like 3 sentences. And I don't fully understand that mystery sometimes. But as you're thinking of that, whether it's these events or as people are coming to you advice, what's one of those things where you are saying to them, yep, but here's what you don't get. And
Look,
that's an aha moment for them.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting discussion, right? I don't know how is this how we're talking about events. If this is the topic of today, I'm here for all of it. If we're talking about the ROI on justifying events, the first thing you need to do is obviously qualify who the hell the audience is and why you should be there. Are you going there as an attendee or somebody who's trying to do some scoping? And if you're scoping, is it the right audience? So if you want to go check out MarTech and brands, obviously possible. If you want to go check out SMB brands across the US, then you want to go to a digital summit. If you want to be edge to edge with your peers, go to somewhere like ANA. If you want to go and think that you're highly creative, but you're not going to enter any creative awards, don't go to Cannes. But if you want to be creative, actually enter some awards, then go to Cannes. But there are different ways to, if you want to go to CES because you're on a blag or you want to save all of your stipend to try and just go spend it at a couple of parties at CES, God bless you. If you haven't walked the floor, shame on you because you should have an opinion. I think that a lot of, particularly agencies or brands generally, shouldn't go to events. They should actually be doing their own event because that will allow them to get a much better result with a much better feedback. Everything can be qualified if you put a QR code on everything anyway, for God's sake, which people don't do enough of, in my opinion. So they actually manage the offline data in a very, very strong way. But my issue here is that events are great to attend if you understand who the audience is and you have a remarkable ability to either speak to that audience or to sit with that audience side by side and say, what do you think of that event? So as somebody who speaks at a lot of different events, whether you're sitting side by side with somebody in a TED audience or you're sitting side by side with somebody at a keynote at CES, their intent is very, very different. If your intent is exactly the same, then you're approaching it the wrong way because every single one of these has their own gravitas. But I don't think people put on enough of their own events personally.
There's that leaning moment, where I go, oh yeah, God dang it, he's right. Listen, we've got time for one final question. It's called Party of Four. We ask this on the end of every one of these podcasts. You're attending a marketing mixer, an event of some sort, and you can bring any guest you want to bring, alive or no longer with us. You get to bring one. Who would you pick and why? Shingy, who would you pick?
That would be easy for me. I'd take Stevie Wonder.
How would he know?
Well, he wouldn't. But 2 reasons why I'd bring Stevie Wonder. One, it will allow me to part the waves pretty quickly as he's swinging a cane around.
There you go.
So I assume is what he does. So that's great. The second thing is I've never actually got to see him live, and he's one of my idols. So I'd love to see him live. And if we pick some mixer that has a piano, then I get to sit right next to him while I listen to things like Superstition, and I become the most popular person at that mixer. So that's where I'm at.
Hell yeah, man. Nothing like music. Nothing like music to bring people together. Alyona, who would you pick and why?
Oh, wow. I'm thinking about finance people all the time. So not about marketing. Sorry for that. I definitely all the time thought about talking to Bill Gates, to be honest. It will be my person to bring. I just want to know some financial secrets, and that's not enough for me from books, interviews, etc. So that definitely not a marketing person, but yeah, from finance world.
I love that answer.
Is there a better marketer than Bill Gates? I mean, for crying out loud, look where he ended up. I'm a little shocked you didn't pick Zelensky, for crying out. Just came back from Ukraine. What kind of Ukrainian princess are you? You don't even pick the president of Ukraine.
Did you know 25 years ago, Bill Gates announced Xbox at CES?
Listen,
That's crazy.
Nothing puts a button on an episode like a great point from Stephen Moy. We definitely need to figure out at the end of this what the drinking game is going to be this year, because we always have a Steven drinking game. Usually it's when he brings up Samsung or something specific. But listen, on behalf of myself, of course, it's Stephen Moy, David Ching, Alyona, Mysko. We want to thank you guys all so much for helping us kick off this season of The Digital Fix. Thanks, guys.
Thanks for listening to The Digital Fix, digital marketing done right. This season is presented by Mio Marketplace. Mio, the marketer's matchmaker. If you're a brand marketer or an agency, media, or platform that works with them, Mio is a marketplace built just for you. Visit them at miomarketplace.com. And by Moy and Halter, a strategic consultancy. If you're struggling with getting your creative and content to efficiently work with your media strategy, we help solve for that, typically in 30 days or less. Reach out for a free consultation today at moyandhalter.com.